Hello everyone, I am Rachna Narayan and today we would be talking about the news which has came few days back pertaining to the International Solar Alliance. International Solar Alliance has said that it would release a report. It was release a report on the global adoption of solar technology in the November this year. So, what is this International Solar Alliance and what is the report it is going to publish about the global stocktake of the solar capacities in the world? So, we'll start by understanding what is this organization known as International Solar Alliance. So, International Solar Alliance, that is ISA, is basically an intergovernmental organization which was introduced in 2015 in the Paris conference with the initiative of two world leaders, the Prime Minister of India and the President of France, in the United Nations Climate Change Conference that was happened in Paris. This International Solar Alliance was introduced to increase the dependency of energy on the solar power. It was introduced with 1000 towards 1000 strategy. What is this towards 1000 strategy? It has few clauses in International Solar Alliance. Those are to mobilize US dollar 1000 billion. That is to mobilize 1000 billion of US dollar for to increase the solar capacity of the world by 2030. Secondly, to deliver the energy access to about 1000 million people. And lastly, to install about 1000 gigawatt of solar energy capacity and much more. This International Solar Alliance was introduced to bring in the importance of solar energy. So now, what is the report we are talking about? What is this report that the ISA is going to introduce? This report is the Global Solar Stocktake Report. It has named the report as the Global Solar Stocktake Report, and it has said that it has taken the inspiration from the Global Stocktake. The Global Stocktake. Now, what is this Global Stocktake? Global Stocktake was the report that was published in United Nations Conference of Parties 27. And this report was to see that how much progress have been done by the countries in the matter of solar energy. And so basically to look how much investment are the world putting into solar energy and what are the progress that these countries are doing in the sector of this renewable energy known as solar energy. So it was found out that in 2020 about 300 billion of investment has been done in the solar sector. And in 2022, about 380 billion investment have been done. So this report will basically look which country is investing how much amount and doing how much work in the matters of the solar energy. In 2022, it was found out that in the terms of investment and work in solar energy, the manufacturing sector is very much uneven because the maximum investment and work is being done by China. So to maintain the system, to look that it is not uneven and to keep a track of the investment and the work, this report is to be published in November this year. Now, so why are we moving towards solar energy? What is why is the demand of solar energy increased in these many years that we need to look into and we need to understand? we are seeing that the world is facing an acute climate change process, an acute situation of climate change. And that is why we need to move towards the more emission to less emission and finally zero emission. So now most of the world is dependent on fossil fuels. Fossil fuel for their energy demand. So that's why there is a demand to move towards less emission, and that can be achieved through renewable energy. And it would be finally zero emission when the whole dependency would be shifted from this fossil fuel to the renewable energy and green energy. And that's why there is a demand, there is an increasing demand to move towards more and more renewable energies. And solar energy has been proved to be a very important segment in the renewable energy. You'll see there are a lot of other energy as well which is in demand, and that is wind, hydro, green, and the nuclear energies. So that's why to to maintain the demand of the renewable energy, world is moving towards solar energy, and so does India. So the solar energy is in high demand in the India, and it has been seen that it would be very important for the India's future energy mix. Now, what is this future energy mix we are talking about? What is the India's future energy mix? For this, we need to look into this pie chart. We'll see that in 2010, this red portion denotes the fossil fuel and the green portion denotes the renewable energy segment. We'll look that by 2010, about 84% of our energy sector was basically coming from the fossil fuels. Slowly it is decreasing and we are moving toward more and more renewable reliance. And it has been said that by 2030, it has been said that by 2030 there would be 50-50% share of these two sectors. It means that 50% of the world, of the India's capacity of the energy would be getting from the renewables, and the other 50% would will be getting from the fossils. This whole idea of this 50-50% ratio was given by our Prime Minister Narendra Modi in Conference of Party 26, which happened in Glasgow. And this goal was known as the Panchamrit goals. It was one of the NDCs, that is Nationally Determined Contribution goals. The whole purpose of this Panchamrit goal was to fight against climate change. And that is why this 50% of energy requirement came into light. A target was also fixed, and this target was to produce 300 gigawatt of solar energy by 2030 through solar energy. Now, we have seen that the Panchamrit goal has been introduced in COP26. Initially also we have seen that there was a mention of Conference of Party 27. So what is this Conference of Parties that we need to look into? So, the Conference of Parties, COP, is basically an apex decision-making body of UNFCCC, that is United Nations Framework Conven- United Nations Framework Convention on Climate Change. This conference of parties is being mentioned in Article 7.2 of the UNFCCC. Now, what is this United Nations Framework Convention on Climate Change? This is a body of United Nations which came into being in 1944. This idea of this framework convention was introduced in 1922 in the United Nations Conference on Environment and Development. And this conference is also known as the Earth Summit or the Rio Summit because it happened in Rio de Janeiro. So, in this conference of environment and development, UNFCCC was signed and it came into being in 1944. The sole purpose was to protect the earth and to treat the issues that is leading to the climate change. Since then, the first conference happened and it happened in 1995 in Berlin. And since then, every year the conferences are being organized in different parts of the world. And they are known as the Conference of Parties. So, today the United Nations Framework Convention on Climate Change has about the universal membership, which is 197 countries are the part of UNFCCC. So we know that the solar energy is important for the development of the country and is very much needed because looking at the climate change scenario, we need to move towards these kind of energy sector. So when we talk about India, we'll have to look what is the solar capacity of India, what is the solar potential of India. And for this, we need to look into this map of India. We'll see that India comes under this tropic zone. We can see that if we look at the map of the world and we'll see that this is the equator, the Tropic of Cancer and the Tropic of Capricorn, that is the 30 degrees. India is located somewhere here. It means maximum part of the Indian subcontinent comes under this tropical zone. This tropical zone. So, when we look, this whole map basically is given by the World Bank Group and it shows the global horizontal irradiation of the world, which shows that if we look at India and it comes under this tropical zone, we'll see that it gets good amount of sun radiation throughout the year, which is basically that out of 365 days in a year, India gets 300 days of peak solar radiation, which is basically 2300 to 3000 hours of sunshine. And if we could tap this amount of sunshine and solar radiation, the solar potential of India is basically 5000 trillion kilowatt per hour. It means that India has the capacity to produce this much amount of solar energy if we fully tap the solar radiation. That is this much of solar radiation if we could tap. And today, although we have initiated the process of developing more and more solar energy, we have reached to a good amount, and that is according to a report of August 2023, we have found out that today India has installed capacity of 71.61 gigawatt. It means that we have already reached to this level of solar capacity, and there is always, and according looking at the potential of India, we can go beyond the target and reach a high level of solar energy capacity. So that's why we have introduced, and India has introduced this ISA, and India became one of the introducing member of this International Solar Alliance, because we have the solar potential. What we need is finance and technology. To, to produce, first to settle in plants, the solar plants, and produce more and more photovoltaic cells for the for solar energy production. And through this, India would be able to achieve its target of Atmanirbhar Bharat and the Make in India concept. So that's why India has actively introduced this ISA. Now, if we talk about solar energy, what are the benefits of the solar energy and why it is important for each and every country to produce? And here, if we are talking about India, why it is important for India? The first and foremost is that it is a renewable energy resource. It is renewable. The sun is the source of energy, and that's why there is no case of replacement of this energy. Secondly, if the solar energy leads to green energy, it means the carbon emission is the least. We can say it's very less, and that's why if one want to invest in the solar energy, and if one want to introduce plants in the solar energy, they can get the financial aids both from the world and from the country as well. The third one, that it is an extremely reliable source of energy. How? Here I'll be talking about smart grids and how AI has been introduced in solar energy. So when the solar energy was being introduced in India, the initial idea was to store the energy. But the problem emerged of storing the solar energy. For this, two things were introduced. The first one was the smart grid technology, which was added with artificial intelligence. What is to be done here? It says that if we'll produce solar energy and we'll introduce this smart grid system which is infused with the artificial intelligence, it will do one thing, is that it would predict the demand. Predict the demand from the world, and accordingly the energy can be produced. So we'll have to introduce a grid in the whole, we'll have to introduce the grid system in our country that would be infused with artificial intelligence, and through the artificial intelligence, it would identify the demands in different parts of the country, and as much required, that much energy would only be produced. So, through this, we can solve the issue of storing the energy. The second one, that if we have to store the energy and there is no other option, then this solar energy this solar energy can be changed into hydrogen through electrolysis. Through electrolysis. And we know that hydrogen can easily be stored. This hydrogen can be then used for numerous purposes, for the electric vehicles which is rising in our country and the other sources as well. So it means through this solar energy we can go towards the hydrogen. We can also move towards the production of hydrogen energy, which can be later stored and used in different ways. The second one is the national grid as well as the decentralized model. Through this solar energy, we have done one more thing, is that our country is being divided in this grid system through which we transfer the energy in different parts of the country. But this solar energy also have the capacity to form this decentralized units. It can be decentralized. It means that the solar energy has the capacity to form small units, and it can be located in the different parts of the world, of the country. So it means if there is any difficult terrain or if there is some difficult situation, there is always a possibility to form small units of solar plants. It means that apart from the national grid system, we can also produce solar energy and transfer it through the decentralized model. So now we know that how much important solar energy is for our country. Why is there so much reliance on this solar energy? So we need to understand what are the initiatives that the government of India is putting in to introduce this solar energy. The first one is the National Solar Mission. India has introduced the National Solar Mission, and through which it is putting in investment and also asking for more and more citizens to come and invest in this solar energy sector. Then India is also making up solar park scheme. A lot of parks in the locality of the countries have introduced solar panels, and through which solar energy would be, it has also introduced solar park schemes. The third scheme is the rooftop solar scheme. It says that, as we know, that solar energy require a flat land for its plants. So that's why the government of India has introduced this scheme known as the rooftop solar scheme, where it is giving the solar panels to the citizens to introduce it on their rooftops. The fourth one is International Solar Alliance. About this we have already talked and discussed, that how India has initiated in formation of this alliance and why do we actually need this alliance for more and more technology and more finance. India has also introduced PM Kusum and One Sun, One World and One Grid. Idea was given by our Prime Minister to show that how much we are reliant on sun. Not just India, but all the parts of the country, all the parts of the world are reliant on sun, and that's why we need more and more technologies to move towards the solar energy system. Then we also have Srishti, which is a rooftop scheme introduced by the government of India for the implementation and production of solar energy. If the solar energy is so much important, then why are we not able to achieve the target, and why are we so much delayed in this target? Because there is a lot of challenges when it comes to solar energy. The first one, the first challenge we look is the very high initial cost. Very high initial cost. For the introduction of solar plant and for making of a solar plant, the initial cost is very high. It means the gestation period of the solar plant, although it's very less, but the amount required is very high. The second one is the intermittent supply. The second one is the intermittent supply. Now, what is this intermittent supply? If we look at this graph, we know that we can get sunlight only during daytime. So, there will always be a time, that is the night time or the evening, where the sun radiation would be very low. And that's why we need one more infusion to this solar energy to maintain this supply. And that's why we need to make it hybrid. So, it means that the solar energy is intermittent, and to maintain the supply of energy, we need to add it with one other form of energy. And here, mostly, we add solar energy with the wind energy. So this is also one of the major challenge when it comes to solar energy, because mostly the solar plants, wherever it is located, we also need to install a windmill or a windmill to maintain that supply. And the last one, an important one, is the land availability. Solar energy needs a flat surface of land to be installed. Solar plants need a flat surface to be installed, and that is creating a problem. To overcome it, although we have introduced a lot of schemes, the rooftop schemes and the park schemes, but this is one of the major challenges when it comes to the problem faced by the solar energy. So what is the way forward of this solar energy? We have already seen that the world is facing acute climate change issues, and to overcome it, we need to move towards renewable energy resources, because to maintain the sustainability of the earth and to look into the sustainable development goals, this is very much required. Although we need to have private players, in the solar energy sector. We need more and more enthusiasm to invest in the solar energy sector, and then only we could achieve the target of zero emission. So, we till now understood why and how solar energy is important to us, and why is that International Solar Alliance is going to produce this report to look how much these countries and the parts of the world are investing and doing work in the solar energy sector. Thank you.